A couple of days ago was Groundswell, which is a multiple-day regenerative agriculture festival, which has happened for the past few years. And as happens every year, social media has been exploding with rave reviews. Everyone's been saying it's great to have a positive forum to carve out the future of British farming. But I would like to do my civic duty and provide some balance to that. We're going to give Groundswell a negative review, but first we must create the basis for that conclusion, so we're going to go to Groundswell and talk to some people. So we're here today at Groundswell, which is a regenerative agriculture festival, and I have with me some guest presenters. I have Ollie Field, who is a farmer from Sussex, and also Simon Orson, who is from my own native Leicestershire and is sporting his socks with diggers on them.
Oh my God, the ground is alive right now.
Groundswell signifies wildness, rewilding, regenerative agriculture. I think, as you can see by the sign here, this is kind of trying to demonstrate the future of what British farming should look like. This sort of integrated mix of wildflowers, grasses, weeds, if you like to call it that. Obviously you can see a butterfly there flying around. This is what we're kind of, and I think that's why it's by the sign here, symbolising the sort of future of British farming.
And it was attended by lots of soil enthusiasts. Some of them were not wearing shoes. One such person was selling an organic fertiliser that contained a fungal supplement for the soil.
We know in healthy ecosystems you can have upwards of 75,000 different bacterial species, 25,000 different fungal species, and yet we don't know barely anything about them. We know they exist, but we don't know their functions, what they do, what they don't do, etc.
This is a common theme. We have seen on the channel that after the war you have scientific agriculture and organic agriculture in opposition to each other. And for over 100 years, the organic people have insisted that the soil is so complicated that science can't explain it. And because science can't help us with farming, using science risks destroying things we don't understand and having unforeseen consequences. We must instead put trust and faith within the organic doctrine.
And so to us it makes sense that the composting process is the gathering of as much biodiversity as possible. So rather than try and isolate strains, we grow as much as possible, you throw it on the ground, nature decides how it's going to be used.
So hold on, so if we don't know a lot about them,
yeah,
why are we putting more on if we don't actually know what they're doing?
Because the alternative is to go and destroy all of them.
Do you think we need to start putting fungi on the fields? And
Yeah.
You think so?
I do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The fungal networks are so vast, and their role is to pick up all of those trace elements, the micronutrients, which are relatively tiny but as important as all of the others. You know, there's a certain number that you need for normal cell functioning. If you don't have them, then we're just not functioning as we should. And that just builds from the ground up.
Little bit blood and soily there. This chap, who very kindly agreed to speak to us on camera, said to me before we started recording that when you really get into soil, it's spiritual, which literally it's not. And I don't mean to be moralistic about this. I think a very important function of the food system is giving people meaning, and if they want to feel they have a connection to the natural world through organic soils, then I would fully support that. But there is a point where it becomes unscientific. Soil is alive, perhaps, you could have that argument, but it doesn't think, it doesn't have a philosophy, and it's not spiritual. But most of the people we spoke to at Groundswell were farmers who were there because they thought the event had great merit, but were also comfortably aware that not everything being presented to them was scientific. But as farmers, they had a sufficient basis of knowledge to navigate that.
I've learned so much.
Yeah.
So you realise you've been to ag college and learnt stuff which you were taught wrong.
Yeah.
You're suddenly starting to learn stuff which you actually think, this is scientifically right, it's morally right.
Do you think everything here is scientific?
No, not necessarily, no. But you can make it as scientific as you want, depending on how interested you are in it.
Yeah.
There is a lot of science behind it, but you don't have to overcomplicate it.
The other thing that I felt set Groundswell apart from other trade shows was that it was a positive, jovial atmosphere. It felt optimistic.
Yeah, it's the one thing you do see coming to Groundswell is farmers are really positive, and they're excited about the future of farming.
Yeah.
You can go to other agricultural shows, or even just down the pub with mates farming. You get a lot of negativity.
Yeah.
Up here, you don't get much talk about the government and things like that. People are more interested about the real positive things in farming.
There was also some interesting stuff being given out for free. This hat was from a stand promoting bokashi, which is in essence the silaging of manure.
I feel like now that I've put this on, I think, we are making agriculture great again. I think, do you know what, it's revolutionised my life, to be honest. Hold on a minute, wait a second. Whoa, grounded. I'm grounded. That's it. Oh, wow. God, I can feel the energy coming right through. Yeah.
It's straw bedding with a bit of wood chipping, and then animal feces.
Okay.
So dung, urine in the bedding. So here at Groundswell, they've got cows that came out of their shed. All we've done is we've added some microorganisms to it when we mucked it out. We've put it into a heap and we've ensiled it. And that process has meant that the organic matter is fermented and it's not rotting.
Shit in it.
So if we left it outside in the corner of the field in a heap, it would be rained on, and we'd lose a lot of phosphorus, a lot of nitrates through the soil profile that will end up into water courses, drinking water, etc. will cause pollution. We also get a lot of CO2 lost into the atmosphere, whereas by fermenting, we retain the carbon, we retain the phosphorus, we retain all of the nutrients, and we don't cause the pollution locally or environmentally.
Just massive plastic sheets.
Which are reusable.
Okay, yeah.
And there was other cool stuff, like this AI-controlled mechanical hoe.
So you have that in your tractor cab?
Right.
Yeah, honestly. And this will go around randomly, hoeing out between the lettuces. It is actually genuinely.
But I was extremely unimpressed by the standard of some of the agriculture on display. The event was surrounded by a field under a cover crop, which we thought was in particularly poor shape and the closest thing I have ever seen to a crop of weeds. And not a single person commented on this the entire time I was there, which at an agricultural event I think is bizarre.
Just come across this cover crop area here at Groundswell, and we're trying to work out what's happening. So we've got like a bit of sunflowers going on here, some wild oats, some beans, and some general, I don't know what this is, thistles and wildlife.
And if it is a cover crop, I'll have a lot of soil.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make a lot of sense.
Again, like another, if you take a pan out, Ollie, and look across the field there, you can see kind of a rather confusing sort of mix of varieties of stuff, some barley here, so yeah, some wild oats you can see.
Not really sure what it's achieving, to be honest.
Yeah, but interesting to see nonetheless.
I had a good chat with the Rare Breed Survival Trust. Good to see the Leicester Longwolls at the top of the leaderboard. And then I bumped into somebody that I know very well.
We're here with Rob, who is actually my boss quite often. He's,
sometimes, yeah.
A lot of the footage I use on the channel was taken at his farm. And how many times have you been to Groundswell?
This is my third time here.
What do you think of it?
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff, isn't there? Whether, you have to sort the wheat from the chaff a little bit and try and work out what's applicable, really. The story of, regen farming sounds absolutely fantastic, doesn't it? And they come up with all this, growing cover crops and it all sounds, like you say, spiritual. It's sort of like almost going back to your roots and, how things should be done.
Yeah, but you are a more regenerative farmer than most, I would say.
I'm certainly trying to do quite a lot of the principles. Am I seeing positive results? I think the soils are generally improving, but it's not a paradigm shift. I haven't seen massive improvements. I think possibly it's a long-term thing, and hopefully we're moving in the right direction. But at the moment, I'd say the jury's still slightly out.
Really?
And the other thing I find with it is there's a lot of stuff out there, and are you getting the gains, for the amount of work? You can spend your entire time driving through your field, putting this trace element on and that trace element on and this product on and that product on, and at the end of the day there's a hell of a lot of faff involved in my world, and it's trying to get it down into a system that works on your farm, with your soils, and not spending your entire life doing it. And I think that's the problem I found with it. It just takes up such a lot of management time.
That's interesting, because I only work on Rob's farm sort of summers cultivating, and my impression is that actually it's quicker to do, say, drilling if you just do like a single pass direct drill than it would be to plough and cultivate and drill and all that
absolutely.
Sort of
so big saving there. But you've put a cover crop in before, so you've already been through the crop and planted a cover crop.
Yeah.
Then you've got to destroy a cover crop. Then we're getting into problems with quite a lot of we've got a lot more organic matter in the situation with the wet autumns we've had. You've got quite a big slug pressure, so you're putting slug pellets on, and although the main cultivation period, you're definitely saving time and getting some benefits there, but you're giving it back up at other times of the year.
How many people do you think are actually farmers that are here?
Probably not many, because it's 90 quid to get in.
Is it only 90 quid? I thought it was more than that.
90 quid plus VAT.
Yeah. It's a business expense, I'm sure.
You shouldn't have bought the ticket off me, should you? Have you noticed an increase in terms of profitability?
No, I don't think I have. I don't think I have, to be honest with you. No, because
and yet you're putting in a hell of a lot of work.
Put in a lot of work. I don't think I've necessarily think I'm worse off, but I haven't really seen a big step change in being more profitable.
And for you now, is it you've invested, so you're carrying on, or or are you sort of thinking, am I wasting my?
I'm carrying on until I get to the day where I say I've had enough of this and I'm going to retire.
I keep saying the same thing over and over again. Going back to what you're saying, listening to all these new modern ways of agriculture, I can't help but feel like the way we've always done it on a mixed farm, where you've got your cow muck out the barn in the spring on the field, plough it in, put your crops in a rotation, is just as good as this setup.
Absolutely.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that entirely.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's what this is trying to almost get back to, and I think the most successful people are doing those sorts of systems. Yeah. They're the people who are seeing, but they're actually realising they don't need as much nitrogen, whereas I'm in a purely arable system, and we can't get away from using nitrogen. At the moment, we can't get away from using nitrogen.
That's the same with my farm. I don't want to import muck.
Yeah.
Because at the moment I'm fairly blackgrass free.
Yeah.
And I don't want to introduce blackgrass if I can help it.
Yeah.
So that's my aversion to muck.
Yeah.
But I can also see that the positives are that you've got to bring muck in for the soils.
Yeah, although you can do it with cover crops.
Yeah. But then, like you say, you've got your issues with slugs.
Yeah.
You've got to destroy it.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to end up guaranteed that you're going to get coulters blocked, aren't you?
Yeah.
When it comes to drilling.
Yeah. I think the beauty of it at the moment is if you've gone into, as I have gone, I sort of saw this coming a little bit, and one of the reasons I got into it, gone into SFI, so I'm now getting a nice payment for putting cover crops in. I'm getting a payment for direct drilling. I'm getting a payment for not using insecticides. So
it's not so much of a gamble.
It's not so much. The gamble's gone out of it a little bit. At least, I've got the work, but it's not costing me much.
Yeah, exactly.
Productivity. It's hard to say in a dry year like this, but I mean, harvest about to happen, I presume, at home.
Yeah, I mean it would be nice for me to sit here and tell you today, my crops are all still green and everybody else's are dead, but they're not. They're just as dead as everybody else's. Yeah. So the soil hasn't suddenly magically kept my crops greener for another week. So
I'm all for new ideas in farming, and I think a lot of the stuff you see here is quite revolutionary and different to what we've known for years.
Yeah.
It's actually in a way it's quite refreshing to see it.
Yeah,
but I think it's overcomplicating stuff.
Yeah.
Personally, I have been involved in quite a lot of it.
Yeah.
And the farm traffic's definitely gone up, field traffic.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, the slug pelleting, the applications. We're looking at the maps on the farm, thinking we've gone through that. Instead of it being like a fertiliser application, a couple of sprays, harvest, back into the cultivation, we're getting 7 or 8 more passes through a field in the year.
Absolutely.
And then they're saying it's better on the environment. Well, burning just as much fuel.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with all
it's
those.
It's all like a much of a muchness.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't work it out basically.
No.
Where's it all going?
Yeah. But are we, because we don't quite understand it, are we being sold a whole load of things that maybe we don't need to be doing?
Well, that's, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Robert, I feel we are.
Yeah.
I've
By
done it.
non-farmers.
Yeah, no, exactly, but I feel we are.
Yeah.
I've done this for quite a few years with different systems, and I can't see any different.
No.
In fact, I'll put it out, I can see it's worse than
Well,
yeah.
Walking amongst the crop down there, you know, there's next to nothing actually growing.
No.
In terms of harvestable.
Yeah.
My fear, Robert, is food.
Yeah.
Where are we going to get it from? If we all start doing all this and we don't get the yields we need,
Yeah.
where are we going to get the food from?
Yeah, but a shortage of food is the benefit to farmers, isn't it, at the end of the day? I mean, I think as farmers, we tend to worry about, oh, where's the food coming from? But nobody else seems to worry about
Just
it. And
import
we need to be paid for it, don't we?
True, and we need to, or they're imported.
Yeah. I mean, I think the next stage of this to make it work is we could do with a bit of a premium out in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Can we sell carbon? Can we sell crops at a premium? And all those sorts of things.
Yeah, brilliant.
Hopefully the government
Robert, that's
agrees.
good to chat to you.
So I went as a skeptic and I came away unimpressed. If for no other reason, because I don't think Groundswell represented what good scientific regenerative agriculture could be. I think there is a debate to be had between no-till and ploughing, say, but that isn't what Groundswell does. It muddies the water by throwing loads of unscientific mystical stuff into the mix. And I found this particularly frustrating, as the good stuff at Groundswell could also be seen at any other agricultural trade event. If you were interested in direct drilling, for example, you could go to Lama, which is free to get into. Ollie was very impressed with the automatic hoe at Groundswell, and indeed I saw this at Lama earlier this year. This left me thinking that Groundswell is a bit like any other agricultural trade event, but with the unique selling point that they also platform unscientific nonsense and have lots of people in bare feet wandering around. It was a pleasant networking event. I had lots of very lovely, very interesting conversations, which I always enjoy. Do say hello if you see me around. But within that, I was advised to save money on my sheep by practicing homeopathic medicine. But the conversation that I felt really summed it up was with someone who worked as a sustainability consultant. I said that I wasn't very impressed with the event, and she said quite pointedly that I needed to open my mind. And later on, I mentioned Bovaer, the methane-reducing cattle feed additive, and she said that this couldn't possibly be used as it's an explosive and can only be used when animals are being fed out of a mixer wagon, so it isn't applicable in 80% of cases when the animals are grazing. Then she said that a mixed ration-fed processed beef burger would not be as nutritious as a grass-fed native breed steak. You can see why she would use that analogy, but I felt this was arbitrary because native, if you unpack it, is a meaningless term. And this irritates me because for a living she advises people on sustainability and actively discourages use of products that would reduce the climate impact of their operations, and instead tells them to produce grass-fed native breed steak, which upon questioning is something that she can't even define. She didn't want me to open my mind at all, because I did. I asked the Socratic question, why? Why is a native breed steak better? What does native actually mean? They can't answer. Opening your mind in the context of Groundswell means suspending your critical faculties and unquestionably accepting things that you know to be irrational. I also felt that for some people, regenerative farming was a way to move the goalposts. Farming is very technical, you have a lot of stuff to contend with, and it's quite difficult to get it right. And if you're struggling with that, what you can do is stop buying fertiliser, get some native breed cattle, and then whatever you produce, you produce. Seen from the perspective of a die-hard post-war scientific farmer, that sort of setup would be inefficient, bad farming in essence. But if you reframe that with regenerative farming, so you're aiming to farm with nature, with that sort of setup you can be achieving what you want. You can be doing a good job. And again, I don't want to be moralistic about this. People aren't obliged to farm scientifically if they don't want to, but I don't like that this movement gets the moral high ground. It's seen as the future, which is something seeping into the broader cultural consciousness of this country. This was part of a Twitter exchange I had this week with someone who seemed reasonable, a normal person who didn't know that much about farming, but was nevertheless pleased that some farmers at Groundswell seemed forward-thinking. But it's not progressive. It's regressive. It's a rejection of the science that is necessary to support the modern human population. And as soon as you start seeing that, politically it becomes quite nasty. I'll save you the lecture this week, but we have seen where these ideas come from, and the apple does not fall that far from the tree. There was a sense running through Groundswell that we now know attempts to feed the world after the Second World War were wrong, and we need to return to more sustainable agricultural practices, and we are the elect who will forge this new path for the countryside. This idea that feeding the world was wrong is becoming normalised, and it's becoming trendy, and it's seen as progressive, which is something that I think we really need to present an opposition to, because it's really, really scary. It's not a game. We can't live off landscapes that look like this. And a lot of these people know that. Thank you for watching. I hope you all know that I take no pleasure in being contrarian about stuff like this. And I think it is a shame, because the farmers we spoke to were there because they thought that there was stuff of great value to see, which I think is tarnished by association with the unscientific stuff. I think going forwards we will try to look at regenerative systems objectively, scientifically, without the mysticism. I might pester Rob for a farm tour because I think he's a very capable farmer. Do subscribe, because before that we're going back to Felgate Farm, where we'll be talking about the government. It doesn't stop.